coming up in today's video, part 1 of a 2-part finale of the rest of the Eldraine main set, including Dragon's Bargain, a brand new dragon that basically utilizes the bargain mechanic with a slight twist to allow you a lot of resource generation. Very fun. Brand new fairy cards continue with one that in particular seems pretty strong, and a Rabbit Unicorns, a new rare that actually looks like it might have some potential just on the premise of being a beat stick. Let's take a look at it all in today's video. Alright, thanks so much everyone for being here. If you guys do enjoy the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think 97% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so it really does help the channel a ton. And you can click the bell icon to stay notified for all, the up-to-date stuff with videos, especially during spoiler seasons and stuff. I'm posting content daily covering it, so you could be, get news whenever you need it. So definitely go ahead and do that if you're interested. And August is almost over, but it's not over yet. If you haven't seen the channel membership yet and you want to join, you can do so by scanning the QR code on the screen. It'll take you there. It's $5 a month, and in the month of August, any channel members that are active at least one day in August will receive a free booster pack of Magic the Gathering. We'll be opening them up on a stream in early September, so if you want to check that out and you want to get yourself a free pack and also check out the other perks the channel membership has to offer, feel free to go on and do so. But we're going to get right into it. This will be a 2-part video because we are basically at the end of the main set reveals. The Commander deck spoilers should be starting tomorrow, I believe, and there are obviously a little bit of crossover because there are some cards that'll be in the decks that'll also appear in the set. But there's also some Commander cards that are going to appear exclusively in set boosters and collector boosters, and that is going to be talked about in tomorrow's video, so stay tuned for that. But let's get into this. These are all main set stuff and reprints. Starting us off with Wildwood Mentor. This is 2 and a green creature tree folk. Whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wildwood Mentor. Whenever Wildwood Mentor attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Wildwood Mentor's power. I do like this. It's a little bit costly, but being able to generate tokens pretty quickly, especially in green, means you can buff this up really fast, and then being able to basically give those stats to another creature when you're attacking is definitely not bad. I can certainly think of some Voltron-style strategies that would benefit from this, but as a whole, it's a pretty cool card that seems like on the surface it at least has potential in decks that can really utilize its buffing ability. Next up, we've got Questing Druid. I really like the artwork on this card, just a note. It is an adventure creature / instant, and it is green and red. Let's do the instant side first. Seek the Beast, 1 and a red. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. So we got a, Impulse Draw, Ren's Resolve type card, but it's an instant, so that's kind of interesting. And then whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a +1/+1 counter on Questing Druid, and that is 1 and a green to play. Certainly really cool in like 5-color decks in Commander, or if you're just, I guess playing this in any combo deck with colors that aren't just green, you can kind of buff this up pretty quick. I really like the art. I don't know whether or not it's going to have any type of significant impact in certain things, but I do like what it can do, and I do like the idea, again, of these sort of multicolor adventure cards. I do think that's a really, really cool set design, so I'm glad we're getting a large variety of them in this set. Ogre Chitterlord is 4 red creature Ogre Warrior with Menace. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. Then, if you control 5 or more rats, each rat you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This is actually pretty cool. It definitely looks like they're trying to shift you in the direction of playing a black-red commander deck with rats, because there are a lot of cards now that have red in them that do sort of work within the rat strategy. But if you're someone who likes rat tribal, there are a lot of new cards in this set that are definitely going to be worth considering. Obviously, that deck has played a specific way for a while, but there's been some really good rat stuff that's come out recently, and I do think it's interesting to see what it may look like if people choose to take that in a bit of a different direction. For Standard, I don't know, this is a little costly. I don't know how it's going to be in there, but maybe people will find a way to utilize it with all of the new rat cards. If you can, make that work, then all power to you. Experimental Confectioner is an uncommon, but it is 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. Again, more rat support, which is kind of why I included it. I also really just like the concept design from it. Like, you basically, sacrifice food, you get a rat. I like it a lot, and I think it's going to have a place in rat decks, generally speaking, because being able to, consistently put rats on board is not a bad thing. The only thing I worry about is whether or not you're going to be able to consistently create food tokens within that color. I'm sure there's a couple cards that do, but I don't know whether or not it's going to be much more than, like, the token that it creates, and you can sacrifice it. Maybe you could combo it with, like, the Salmon Frodo food deck there, because you could at least have, a consistent source of token generation in the deck. Malevolent Witch Kite is a 4 black dragon warlock that I teased in the intro here. Another really cool art. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens, then draw that many cards. Obviously, this isn't actually bargain. The new bargain mechanic is on cast, so that's why I said it's sort of like that. But I think it's kind of broken if you were to be able to do that on cast, because you could just get rid of stuff and draw before it even comes into play, even if it's countered. But I really do like this a lot. We've seen now that there are a ton of token generators in this set, but also in general, like artifacts tokens, you can make blood tokens, you can make treasure tokens, you can sack off your roll tokens and then just get a lot of draw power. I definitely think this card has potential, and I think it's got potential in multiple formats, although I do wonder in standard if you're able to cheat it out with any kind of consistency. Maybe that new Virtue, I can't remember the name, we talked about it in an earlier video, but the adventure that allows you to revive stuff could be a good combo to sort of go back and forth. Now, we know there is a commander deck that is going to have a lot of fairy support, but the main set's had plenty of it as well. And Fairy Slumber Party is a sorcery that's 4 blue, return all creatures to their owner's hands. For each opponent who controlled a creature returned this way, you create 2 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying, and this creature can block only creatures with flying. This is going to be really good. It's not, the lowest cost card, but it's still a board wipe, quote unquote, for blue, and you have cards like Cyclonic Rift that are obviously better, but this definitely has a place, especially with a lot of the new cards that are specific to controlling a fairy or fairies coming out. It definitely does have a place, I think, and I like it a lot. I even think in standard, potentially it could see some type of play, just because it's not a bad option to be able to clear a board that's problematic and put some pressure out. Obviously, though, it's most strong in Commander, because the more opponents you have, the more fairy tokens you get, and then the more, you're able to sort of combo off from there. But again, a good card for sure, and definitely one worth looking at. Lady of Laughter is 3 white. It is a fairy noble with flying. It has Celebration. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. More draw power for white. This really isn't terrible, though. It's kind of one of those things that, may cost a bit too much to be super useful in standard, but it's not that hard to get 2 non-land permanents out, especially if you can generate tokens and stuff, and consistent draw power is certainly something solid. I don't know how I feel about this one entirely, but I'm curious what you guys think, because I know there's a lot of people who just have a more experience with certain strategies than I do, and can certainly weigh in. So feel free in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of this card, because on the surface it does feel good, but at the same time I could really be overvaluing it a little bit just based on reading it. Feral Encounter is 2 green sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may exile a creature from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card this turn. At the beginning of the next combat phase this turn, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power up to 1 target creature you don't control. So they gave us a digging into the deck mixed with the green fight mechanic, or well, in this case dealing damage, similar like a Master's Rebuke, I guess. But it's not a bad card, and it does allow you, especially in, I'm playing the mono green Vorinclex commander deck. I'm this is basically just 2 mana to search the deck and also allow me to, be able to do a little bit more digging. I like the card. I think it's pretty solid overall, and it's low enough cost, but you really do have to be playing mostly green, or at least have consistent access to a lot of green mana in order to be able to maximize what this card can do. Regal Bunnicorn. I love this card. It's so cool. It's 1 and a white, and its power and toughness are each equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. When I first read this, I was it's okay, I guess. Obviously, it itself counts as 1. But then I'm thinking about, all the token stuff that this set has, and the influx of token generation in general, and this is pretty easy to buff up pretty quick. I mean, obviously, the lands don't count, but just token spam in general, whether it's food, whether it's treasure, whether it's the roll tokens, and, I've played commander strategies where I could see this just being a solid card to have access to. It's not necessarily going to shift a game, but it kind of becomes a problem if it starts to get too big, and then the opponents kind of have to waste a resource to get it off the board, which is not bad when you consider it's a relatively low investment card. I could even see it being fun in an aggro type build in standard, just because of how low of a cost it is. It's one to keep an eye on, though. I definitely think it's better on paper than it might seem, better in practice than it might seem on paper if you kind of look at it that way. And Rankle's Prank. This is 2 black sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. It's like Invoke Despair, but not as good. And obviously Invoke Despair is banned in standard, but I'm glad they made a somewhat more balanced version. This is definitely an annoying card for sure, but it does also affect you, which is kind of where it's, got a lot of drawbacks versus the, the other one, Invoke Despair, which just basically said fuck you to your opponent and rip them for a bunch of resources for about the same amount of mana. I don't know how good this is going to be outside outside of Standard, but I could certainly see it seeing play in there. And maybe in, like, Pioneer or the other formats where, like, Waste Not is a prevalent card and you want to be able to discard and force stuff out of the opponent's hands. I could easily see this being really powerful. And you can pick which modes you want to use, so in certain cases, you can absolutely skip, you know, the more devastating ones to you. Now, for the reprints, there's only 2 that are really worth mentioning here. We've got As Foretold, of course, an enchantment. This is 2 and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on it. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on it. It's pretty cool. It hasn't been reprinted in a bit. It was like $7 to $10, so not the biggest value reprint, but pretty cool artwork, and generally speaking, just another solid inclusion. At least it's not a bulk rare, so we'll take that. And then Dragon Mantle, really, really cool artwork here. This is 1 red, and this is just an uncommon, but again, it was, you know, a decent enough inclusion. I'm glad it's not at least garbage. Like, some of these cards are pretty good, and so that's really what we're, you know, what we're looking for here in terms of a subset. So, you know, really all you can ask for. In the next part of this video, which will be coming out tomorrow, we're going to talk about some new cards, including Throne of Eldraine, of course, a callback to the original Eldraine set, and a bunch more, so be sure to check back for that. But let me know in the comments what you guys think of the reveals we talked about today, how you feel about the set as a whole, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.